know I'm not always here alone to have this conversation. With me is Akin, who's the founder of Corporate Farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, you're very much welcome to the Business Hour. My name is Frank Fagbo. Let's go right into the heart of the matter. Akin, you're very much welcome to the Business Hour. You're very much welcome to the Business Hour.
All right. Thank you very much once again. First of all, let me say Happy International Youth Day. Hope you can still hear me clearly.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Happy International Youth Day to everyone. I'm sure you're still a youth anyway. So to start by this, I would say that, yes, for us, it is a welcome development, which personally for me, I am excited about. When I read the news yesterday on X, I felt, yes, government is beginning to take agriculture rather serious, because we know that one of the major factors that has caused a disadvantage to the agri sector is basically security. And that has been on for many years now, for so many years now. Security has been a major issue within the agricultural sector. So setting up an Agro-Ranger across several states, specific states, means that, yes, our farmers will be protected. It means our farm produce will be protected, and also our crops will be well guarded, amongst many other things. In fact, one of the things that I see that's going to solve also is to create some level of sanity between the farmers' herders crisis that has, prolonged for so many years now within the agricultural sector. So yes, for me, it is a good advantage. It's coming at the right time because 2024 is almost done, is almost gone, and by end of December, we need to be able to say this is the number of output harvested across farmers across the entire country. But again, that cannot be done when we don't have proper security on our farmlands, proper security for our farmers, proper security for our crops. So yes, it is a good initiative. It's a good initiative. It's a good one by the federal government towards production today in Nigeria. And yes, I'm in support of it totally.
Okay, given the scale of insecurity, do you also think that this initiative will be enough to make a significant difference? Because it's one thing to have a policy or something being done to be able to address this thing, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really going to be what would end up moving the needle. Do you think this would bring an end to insecurity? 10,000 agro-farmers. Remember that we have very vast arid land in this country. Would this be sufficient to be able to combat the insecurity ravaging your sector?
So what I would say is this. It's not enough, yes, but it's a start, okay? It's a start. And we keep improving on it. So what I think government should do is this. Set up a proper structure so that will take care on the recruitment, the affairs, the management, and the funding of Agro-Rangers. Let it be a complete body on its own, under the security agencies, whereby young minds who are interested in security can enroll, be well trained, and also carry out these duties. So it's not enough. But again, it's a good step in the right direction towards attaining food security for Nigeria, especially help reduce the level of insecurity that has been on us for a very long number of years. And with that, you begin to get support from different states, from foreign organizations, and also from private sector-led bodies. So yes, it's a good step. It's not enough. But again, it is needed at this point in time to help reduce and solve problems around food security today in Nigeria. This I totally support.
Now, let us talk about the rising cost of food. As tomato prices finally drop, it looks like that is really happening at this point in time, because the prices of tomato is beginning to drop. And remember what has been happening in the last 2 months. What is the reason for that? And can you explain the entire value chain? What is the reason for the price drop in tomato?
It's simple. It's simple. So when rain fully started, around let's say March, April, May, June, at least, tomato is basically a 3 month cycle product, okay, commodity. So 3 months basically. And within 3 months, a lot of farmers has gone to the field to start cultivating. And that is why today we have a whole lot of tomatoes available in the market. The reason why we had some shortages many few months ago were because of the disease and also because of climate change factors. Okay, we didn't have rain, and also again, most farmers were not able to afford what we call irrigation farming system. So it was difficult. When there's no rain, it's difficult for you to go into cultivation. But today, at least with the few rain we had in previous months, we've been able to cultivate enough. But is that enough? No. Is this problem going to repeat itself again? It can, if we or government don't put proper measures in the right direction. And what does all these things need? It's simple infrastructure, and that is water. When water is available, all these commodities, most of our commodities can be available all year round. So we don't depend totally on God to provide water for us. Because again, God cannot give us everything in terms of rain, because climate change is affecting, and that's reality. Not that God is not almighty, but again, we also need to create man-made rain via irrigation system or other things available to us. So we need to begin to think towards the plan B, where we cultivate our produce, because climate change is real and climate change is with us, but we need to also begin to look at how best we can begin to mitigate against this, so that by the time we've put the seed on the ground, we don't run to God all the time and be praying to God to give us water, and water would not come. But again, we need to start preparing for other factors that might cause drought, which is even showing signals. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of drought in some other part of the country, and we've not had rain for the past couple of months now. So for a month and plus. So water is essential. Infrastructure investment is also very important in agribusiness enterprise. Okay, so this should not repeat itself again if we can invest so much on infrastructure, especially water, through irrigation farming system. With this, we can have these same commodities, other commodities, all year round in different cycles.
Okay, let us play a bit around this whole 10,000 rangers, farm rangers. And if we have so many boxes that have not yet been ticked. The box of insecurity, it looks like that is about to get ticked now. We also have the box of after the farmers are able to produce, taking the produce from the farm gate to the market. That is logistics. Logistics is the fundamental problem. And you've made mention of even water, lack of good irrigation system, all this that is currently ravaging your sector. But then it looks like the entire celebration about these 10,000 rangers is a one-crop-fits-all approach to solving the issue of rising food inflation. Do you agree that this would solve the issue, or perhaps this is just more or less like a ray in a spectrum of light? Who knows if this is not really significant in addressing the prices? Because no matter what happens in the entire value chain, Nigerians, what is more important to Nigerians is how they're going to get back the price of gari to perhaps, let's say, 1,000 naira for a pint, or egg to perhaps, let's say, 800 naira for a crate, or 500 naira for a crate. That is more important to Nigerians.
Yes. So what I would say is this: there are so many factors that are embedded towards food production. So for Nigeria as a country, for example, not globally, at least for Nigeria, number one, security issue is a major factor. Most of our farmers has been disposed to IDP camps today. Most of them have fled their farm centers. With the Agro-Ranger, yes, this can be solved only if government does not play politics with it. So yes, we can achieve a lot by creating solid and standard Agro-Rangers across major states and across major farm centers. That is one. Then two, another part that we need to begin to look at, which we've not had a lot of conversation around, is logistics. Now, today, Nigeria is heavily dependent on road systems, okay, in moving our commodities. And that is not going to serve us so good, because over the years, we've relied heavily on road. And I believe that we can do so much more. I'm not sure if you can still hear me, please. Can you still hear me?
Oh, very well.
Okay. We can't do so much with road infrastructure. We need to expand into alternatives like railway system, using of waterways to move our commodities from point A to point Z, because cost of petrol has gone super high. Cost of diesel has gone super high. What do we need to do? We need to begin to look at alternatives, begin to look at other solutions that will help us move our goods, our food from point A to Z. So two things. Let's take care of security and let's look for alternative measures to move our foods from different locations, especially from farm gates to market. With these, we can solve so many problems.
Okay, let us bring it home now to most Nigerians. Why, for goodness sake, are Nigerians buying a crate of egg for 6,000 naira, perhaps 6,500 naira? A lot of Nigerians are complaining about that, and I'm not too sure if the whole idea about 10,000 farm rangers is going to solve that particular problem. The entire value chain, there are two different value chains. And let us talk about the reason for what is happening in the poultry with the farms.
So it's simple, because today the cost of feed is high. Okay, so what do you need to produce your feed? They are basically farm inputs, your maize, grain in particular. The cost of grain is high. So how do we shoot that down? We need to increase capacity on grain production, majorly maize and soya. Okay, when we can produce so much more, it's easier for farmers to purchase feed and feed to feed their chicken or birds. And with this, the cost of the poultry in terms of value chain will definitely fall. But if you don't do this, we'll still be having increase in cost of poultry production, because an average farmer would need to purchase at least 700,000 tons of 100 kg bag of maize for his poultry, and he has to fix in those costs in every of his birds or poultry that he's keeping. So these are important things we need to look at. Buying a ton of maize now is quite expensive, almost 700, 800, depending on where you're buying it from the farm gate. Okay, so we need to look at this. We need to look at how best we can expand production. Expanding production will reduce the cost of poultry, eggs, and other factors embedded in it.
Okay, let us talk finally about funding and subsidies. Funding is one major problem for the agri sector. A lot of farmers do not have access to funds. But apart from that, I've always been asking myself the question, what is the work of the Bank of Agriculture? Because the Bank of Agriculture should be responsible for providing credit facilities to the farmers. And because of how underfunded your sector is, that's why we're not seeing a lot of investors coming into the playing field, and we're not seeing a lot of the return on investment as regards produce coming in. That's why we're experiencing some of all this food crisis. Not enough money to be able to bring in machineries to play at a large scale. Because if we do just suppose what is happening in Nigeria here and other climes, you'll find out that just 1% of other countries is responsible for feeding the entire 99% of the country. And here in Nigeria, the case is not the same. We have almost 20% of Nigerians into farming, but it's not really solving the issue of food crisis. What is your take about funding, and how can the government address this issue? And also, do not forget the bank of the side of the Bank of Agriculture.
So funding for the sector can come into perspective. Private sector-led funding and also government funding. So funding from federal government is quite important, from Bank of Agriculture, BOA, and probably other intervention funds from the CBN, okay, which we need to be really serious about. Over the years, we've had intervention, different kind of subsidies that has gone into the agricultural sector, which really hasn't made major effects. Okay, for example, the anchor borrower scheme and the likes from federal government, which has been misused or mismanaged. Okay, but again, is funding needed? Yes, it is. How do we go about it? Number one, from government, there is need to put proper structure into the funding process. M&E has been the major barrier from the government angle. Funds were given out to farmers, but were those funds monitored and evaluated for the purpose it was meant to? I don't think so. I doubt it. And that's why we had so many failures where government funded various agricultural projects or programs. Now, how can private sector come in? Commercial banks will not give you money because, again, they are business-led to make profit, okay? And they also ascertain the risk which they are putting their money into. So what do we need to do? We need to expand other opportunities of funding. Capital markets can play a role, okay? And even if private sector can begin to fund agribusiness effectively, there is need to evaluate such business and be sure that such business is ready for funding. Okay. Today we have a lot of young agripreneurs that are doing so much more. They are doing so well within the ecosystem that even requires fund, no matter how little it is, from 20,000 and above to 1 million. Okay. Now funding and from 20,000 and to millions of naira. Now, how can funding support them? We need to begin to look at how private sector-led partnership innovations or funding process can be created, whereby government bring in this percentage, private sector bring this percentage to solve or to provide some level of funding for rural farmers or young agripreneurs who are interested of going into the sector. Yes, with this we can solve issues of funding. Most importantly, we need to begin to talk about or look into alternative funding structures where capital markets can begin to play a role in funding agribusiness ventures while evaluating the risk embedded in it. So with this, we can solve. Funding is not really a problem, actually, but we need to put structure into how those funds are being given and be sure that our farmers or agripreneurs that are given this fund are ready for the fund to be given to them, so that when this fund is virtually given, it meets up to the purpose in which it's being used for. So with this, funding problem should be a no-brainer at all. Most of the farms today you have in Europe, in America, and other developed countries are well funded by banks. But because, again, when you fund them, those funds were used for the purpose which is meant for. And that's why today, across different European countries, across different South African countries, across different Canadian countries, we have generational farmers that have relied on government fund, subsidy-funded programs and farm inputs that have helped sustain them for thousands, for several years, and they are still today in the business of agriculture. So this can be achieved enough if only funding can be properly monitored, evaluated to achieve the purpose it is meant to do for any agribusiness enterprise.
Just a one-liner. What is on the final note? You said that the banks are not giving monies to the farmers because the banks are in for profit, they are in for business. Yes. And you're insinuating, are you insinuating that the business of farming is not profitable? Because if they're in for profit and the business of farming is profitable, then we should see the banks rallying around the farmers.
So two things. Agriculture is in two different areas. We have the production, we have the processing and other value chain. Now, production is quite key. Production is the heartbeat of the ecosystem. Production is large. So that is where the risk is. For example, in production, so many factors can debar you. Climate change factor, which you're not even aware of. Okay, you could have thefts. So these are the things banks would look at before they even fund your business. And that's the risky part of it. So most banks will look at this risk and say, I may not want to go into this business. But in terms of processing, that is converting the produced commodity into another value chain, yes, I may want to put my money into that. For example, if I want to convert cocoa beans into chocolate, big investment. I don't mind. I can put my billions of dollars into that because at the end of the day, I'm going to ship my chocolate to Africa. I'm going to ship my chocolate probably to other countries and make my profit. But again, the production bit of the value chain is where the problem is. Most banks are not ready to fund the production part of the ecosystem, and that basically is the bedrock of any agricultural enterprise. Production. That is where government needs to look at. Private sector needs to look at it, how they can properly evaluate and fund the production bits of any agricultural enterprise.
Akin Alabi, the founder of Corporate Farmers. I want to say a very big thank you for coming to the business hour. It's been a great conversation talking about the general overview of the agri sector and also the 10,000 farm rangers that were deployed to different farms in 19 different states. Thank you for coming to the business hour.